Okay folks, so let's move on with our game. We are going to add some obstacles in this one. We're not going to set up anything like health for when they run into them yet. We're just going to focus on, making the car run into them at this point. So what we're going to do is we are going to firstly take note of the two sprites that I've added to my folder so far. What I've got here is I have the tree called tree 2 and I've got some barrels. Let's set up the tree first. Doesn't really matter, but we're going to do the tree. So I don't actually need to change any of my tree sprite settings for this, so let's just drag it in. You can use shift, just hold it down, and that will keep the scale when you're adjusting the size of your sprites. Really handy to have, and as you can see, it's running behind our road. So let's just change the sorting, the order in the layers. I'm going to change it to 3 because I believe that is just above the car. And yeah, I reckon that sounds nice. Lovely. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to add a box collider to it. So when we're talking about colliders, there are a lot of options in terms of 2D colliders. We've got box colliders, which is the shape of a rectangle, capsules, which are, bit of a running track shape capsule, a circle collider, and then the others aren't hugely important, but the polygon collider is a helpful one as well. Let's have a quick look at the polygon collider, and you can see here that it does a fairly good job of mapping around the important parts of it, but also it's not perfect, and the more complex our colliders are, the more annoying it will be to run. I know our game isn't going to be too difficult for the computer to run. It's not going to be very elaborate, but I am just going to give it a regular old box collider. It will mean that the car will be able to run into this part of the tree here, but I'm okay with it. So, right there, we have a tree arm, and the car needs a collider as well. Here's one I prepared earlier. So, what I've done is I added another box collider, and I actually just adjusted the size of it here. You can see the green line on it. I just tried to get it to fit the car's body a little bit better. I'm just going to offset it a little bit here. There we go. Okay. You will also notice that I've added a rigid body 2D to it. The only changes I made to the rigid body was I gave it a gravity scale of 0 and I froze the Z rotation. I'm going to turn that one off for the moment so I can show you what that does later. We'll come back to it. Okay, so remember, we're not working with gravity in this. If I had that on, it would pull gravity to the bottom of the screen, so that's perfect for your Mario-esque platformers. But for this, down doesn't need gravity. So we've got that turned off. Okay, so if I dump this tree right in front of my car, let's see what happens. Oh yeah, oops, I forgot about that one. Okay, so we haven't actually set up the tree to move yet. For the sake of example though, let's see what happens. I'm going to move the car into it, and the car spins. So that's what happens when we change the freeze rotation setting on for the car. So freeze rotation Z, it's sometimes you could get by without it, but it is really important for this one, considering you would have noticed that because I've got freeze rotation off, whenever I do up, it does it from the car's perspective. It's doing left from that direction, which is not what we want. So we could either fix the script or just lock that rotation in. And there we go. It just can't get past it. Easy. Okay. So we need to get this tree moving, which of course the answer is a script. We've got our BG scroll for background scroll. I'm going to make FG scroll because this is more in the foreground. Okay, let's open it up and have a look. First thing we're going to do is we're going to give it a private float called speed. Similar to our other one, I believe the speed we had was 3 on our background scroll. Yes, it was. Okay. And because our speed is going towards the left, and that is in the negative direction, let's just chuck a minus on that so we don't have to later. Remember, we are going to make this fixed update. And then let's write our one line of code we need to move it. So we're going to be changing the transform.position, and we're going to be adding to it a new vector 3. So I'm going to do the speed times time.delta time. Remember, delta time just is the change in time. So that's going to be consistent across everything. So speed times the time, and that will get our movement. And if you know your maths, that will make sense to you. Not maths, physics rather. Okay, let's just test it. See what happens. Let's take our tree, move it over here so we can see it move properly. Okay, and boom. Okay, we've run into it. Good. So the one thing we're going to have is this is going to go past the edge, and then it's just going to keep going. And then every time we want a new tree in our game, we're just going to have to create more and more and more and more trees down the track. Like, so if we want to plan our game way in ahead, we'll have a million trees going down this way. I've got a better idea. We can use our foreground scroll script to send that back. Once it falls off the edge, we can send it back to the front here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check where it is that it falls off. Okay, cool. At about minus 8.3. Yeah, minus 8.3. Easy. So let's write this in. If the transform.position x is less than minus 8.3, then we're going to reset the location to be transform.position, and we're going to make it a new vector 3, and we are going to give it 8.3f, which should be the exact opposite side of it. And then for the y, we need to just give it the same transform.position.y as before. Okay, that should work. What I do intend on doing later is replacing this with a bit of a random number generator so that we can get some randomness and some interesting stuff happening in our game. So whenever a tree goes off the screen, it'll pop up in a different exact spot. Let's save that for the moment and just get working. So when the tree falls off the edge, it should repeat back at the right hand side. Very nice. Oh no. Oh no, it's back. Lovely. Okay, so that tree is pretty good. Let's sort out our barrels. So what I'm going to do, because I've got multiple, because it's a sprite sheet, I'm going to set it to multiple, apply that, and then let's go to the sprite editor. So I actually had a bit of a play with this before. When I sliced them, it didn't do it quite as I was expecting. It didn't do it quite that neatly. What I can do is I can do grid by cell count. So I can say that there are 4 columns and 2 rows. Then if I slice it, it works that out. Cool. Lovely. Now let's go apply, and all of our barrels are sorted out here. Okay, I've hit apply. All our barrels are sorted out here. I'm a bit more of a fan of the thin barrel. So what I'm going to do is I am just going to drag and drop one of them into the scene. And we can't see it at the moment, so let's bump that up. And it's also really small, so let's have a bit of a zoom in. So I have lost the tool that I'm trying to use to scale this properly. This isn't quite working either, because that's not doing it at the same time. So what I just did is I just changed it manually with numbers here. So if I just simply, I'm just going to rename it barrel. Same for the tree, but I'm going to call it tree. Okay, I'm going to add a FG scroll script to it. I'm even going to trim this guy a little bit, not on the y-axis, on the x-axis rather. There we go. Love it. So now that I have one tree and one barrel fully working, what I can actually do is I can select both of them and I can drag them back into my assets folder. Well, I need to do it one at a time. You'll notice if you're in the same version of Unity that I am, you can see that these now have gone blue over here. That's because they are based off prefabs. Prefabs are essentially, we've set them all up so that they're perfect. They're exactly how we want them to be. So if I open it up, you can see it has a box collider. It's got a FG scroll script. It's all ready to go. So this is perfect. If I go back to my game and drag more prefabs on here, you can see that they will instantly have all the same details and features as everything else. They just got through. So something you might be interested in doing is you can decide that your box collider on your tree is a little bit rough. Like, I mean, you can't physically run into the top part of the tree. So I'm actually going to just shift this down to the bottom half and be generous on the top. Let's give that another go. Cool. And because of how we've drawn our tree, that actually looks pretty cool. Lovely. So, if you ever get into this position, just click on your hierarchy over here. And we're back. So, now we've got that stuff sorted. Next lesson, next tutorial rather, we're going to sort out some health and some actual, collision scripts. Thanks guys. Cheers.